Clearly wasn't ready for this to come on that quick. Welcome, everybody, to Hits and Misses. My name is Tumi. This is my boy, Eric.
Yo.
Yeah, my fault, bro. We're just going through like the hits and misses of the day in football, everything that happened from a fantasy standpoint, from NFL standpoint even, but mostly about fantasy football. It's week 16, hot and heavy playoffs right now. There's a lot of hits and a lot of misses. Normally, we'll like kind of go through the news, but honestly, today, just because we're kind of getting a late start, it's like holidays, season, everything. And like we just want to get into it. Like there's some really, really, really big performances today, both positive and negative, that really helped you or really screwed you today. Maybe kicked you out of the playoffs. So, my fault here. I just trampled all over your intro. You want to tell people who you are?
Yeah, man. I'm just a homie, Toomey's homeboy that watches football. You know, this is like a peek into how we go ahead and talk about football, whatever. It's like no strings attached. Just go ahead and talk about the sport that we love. And to this day, we have quite a lot to talk about because I'm in the playoffs. Currently, I don't know how much longer. Your boy had not the best weekend. I ain't gonna lie to you. Not the best.
So, and just real quick, we know everyone cares about our own fantasy leagues. But, so how are you doing in our main league?
What's in our main league? I'm alive. However, I'm down by like 30 points, but I have 5 players left. These mundane games I'm pretty much invested in, like Ezekiel Elliott and Cortland Sutton, mean something to your boy this weekend.
Yeah, okay. And we're going to be talking about them at the end of this. So that's the Sunday night game. This is such a riveting matchup between the Patriots and the Broncos for Sunday Night Football on Christmas Eve, of course. But tomorrow, I keep forgetting it's a trifecta of games. So it's going to be really, really cool. And a lot of fantasy championships. You may feel like a certain way today, but massive amounts of players tomorrow. San Fran, Baltimore. I don't know who. I mean, Saquon plus the Philadelphia Eagles.
Yeah.
Then you got Patty Mahomes, Raiders. I mean, the Raiders, even though they're not a great team, they have a lot of fantasy relevant players. So we're going to talk about all that. But, hey, show's called Hits and Misses for a reason. There were a ton of hits and there were a ton of misses. So, Eric, I'm going to give you the option. It's the holiday season. Do you want to start positive? Do you want to go negative first? Which one, hits or miss? What do you want to do?
We'll do positive because it's the holiday season.
Right,
I won't let my mood dictate how things should go.
Okay. Who you starting with, bro?
Clearly the biggest hit of the day, Amari Cooper. My goodness.
Jeez,
I talk big about Joey Flack, but man, Amari Cooper, he does this from time to time where he decides, you know what, I'm going to wake up and not be a human.
Yeah.
What the hell? He went off. Did you think that Josh Gordon's record would be broken as soon as now? No. 261 something yards within 10 years. It's gone. Wow.
Like and especially because it's Amari Cooper too, because it's not like it was like Tyreek Hill or somebody like, I mean, I know they're not on the Browns, but like Amari Cooper. So the one thing I'll say, so I'm gonna pat my back a little bit. I've been saying that honestly, I'm buying into the passing game here because just purely from an opportunity standpoint, this was the least amount that Joe Flacco's thrown it since he's been a starter, and it was 42 times. They are a pass-first offense. Joe Flacco is at this point in his career where he just doesn't care. He threw 2 picks. Who cares? Like, they're throwing the ball so much. That's why Njoku, I mean, he had a good day for a tight end, but it wasn't like what he did last week. But he's a safe option, man, in fantasy just because of all the passing volume. And Amari Cooper, like his stat line, so it was 15 targets, 11 receptions, 265 and then a 2-point conversion on top of that. Like you said, every now and then I feel like he just wants to remind people like I'm that dude, and I feel like y'all are not putting respect on my name like that. And he went crazy. He went for 51.5 PPR points. So I'm in a creator league on TikTok, and I follow me at FS Strategist on TikTok. Number 1 seed, doing great, expecting to be in the championship game. I faced Amari Cooper, Puka Nacua, Jahmyr Gibbs, and he had Nick Mullins at quarterback and didn't even matter. He had Jordan Love on the bench. So, I mean, I'm clearly not winning that matchup.
You went up against mad hits.
Yes.
Mad
hits. Hits were covered. I mean,
hit list. That's who you went against.
We're going to talk about every one of those players, and they went nuclear, and Amari Cooper especially, man. Like, props to him. Now, I don't know how much I expect, obviously, this to continue. This is a career game. But like I said before, while he's not going to be the number 1 player overall in fantasy next week, he is connected to a heavy volume passing offense. they are a pass-first team. They're just not as effective running the ball, especially with the injuries on the offensive line. So honestly, like I'm 100%, we're going to get into buying it, selling it. I'm buying this hit performance. Not that he's going to give me 50 again, but he's like a back-end wide receiver 1, like a low-end wide receiver 2, just based on how much they throw the ball.
And Flacco. I mean, Flacco, like you said, he's throwing the ball in the man's accuracy. We've been talking about him for, I think, a month now. Joey Flack. The man ain't Flacco. Call him Joey Flack. He's getting it done, man. Respect. The dude, like the Browns next year. Imagine if they had Nick Chubb. This team, we would be making a whole lot more noise about. The Browns, they all right.
Imagine if they had Deshaun Watson, though.
Yes. That's right.
I'm joking because Joe Flacco's playing better than Deshaun Watson.
I forgot about him.
Yeah, truly. Like, and someone was like, "Man, who's their quarterback?" I was like, "Oh yeah, they paid like a lot of money for him." There may need to be a discussion. Like everyone was dumping all over running backs. This is not that show, guys, but everyone was dumping all over running backs. There may need to be a discussion about the quarterback position because obviously there's a lot of backups. A lot of them are garbage. Some of them came through and doing some work better than the starters. So
facts.
You know what I mean?
Such facts. Absolutely.
All right, so let's get to another hit. I want to be positive too. We'll trust me, guys. We know some of you guys got kicked out of the playoffs. We're going to get to the misses. There's a lot of them, but there are. I mean, honestly, even looking at the 1 o'clock slate from an entertainment standpoint, it honestly wasn't like a super entertaining like set of games. But when you look at the scores, there was a ton of scoring, a ton of scoring in the 1 o'clock games. Another one of the guys who, I mean, you want to talk about not to know what to do with this performance, Breeland Hall. 20 rushes, 95 yards, 2 touchdowns on the ground, 12 receptions for 16 targets for 96 yards. Like, I'm trying to find his points. He put up 43.1 PPR fantasy points today. He put up 2.8 fantasy points last week.
Amazing return. Like, if you happen to be able to absorb that hit and you saw this matchup coming in, you knew you were going to go ahead and eat. This man had a buffet, got thirds on Thanksgiving. Like, he went absolutely off. I have Breeland Hall, and the only reason I'm slightly upset and perturbed is because of him. Without Breeland Hall, I would just get a dude with the money. It's over. Like, there's no way I will have a comeback. This is something that has really, really, really surprised me given the amount of hurts and things that I'm going to talk about when I dive into the misses that I've also had to go ahead and deal with. But I'll get there.
Yeah, and like Brees, man, like, man, it's to me, I'm going to start him next week. Like, you know, I mean, he's a starter, clearly. But this matchup is uniquely amazing. Like, Washington is one of the worst defenses I may have seen in history. They are awful. And if the quarterbacks for the Jets are going to be dumping off the ball to get 16 targets, he's not going to get 16 targets next week, but he's going to get a lot of targets. So that's the thing with Brees is, like, he is a must start. I'm just trying to figure it out in my head right now. He is a must start just based on the floor from a PPR standpoint. And that was the concern last week where it seemed like Simeon and Boyle before Zach Wilson came back were getting the ball to Breeland Hall a lot. Then Zach Wilson came in, got the ball to Breeland Hall a lot. Last week, barely got the ball at all in the receiving game. If we could at least count on him getting some receiving work, he's back to being top 10 guy. Now, the thing with him is I'm not buying into his rushing. Again, this matchup is uniquely awful. And prior to this game, I think it was either 5 games straight or maybe more, maybe 6, where he had under 28 yards rushing. And that was like getting like 10, 12, 16 attempts.
Sounds about right.
Awful, you know? And that's the thing. Like honestly, Eric, I got Breeland Hall on a couple teams too. I'm lucky that in one of them I'm still alive because he killed me last week. Like, I was eliminated like a lot of leagues because of him and Garrett Wilson and players like that. So it's kind of we're almost like unicorns. If you happen to still be alive to experience it, maybe it's like in one league, you know? But man, God, he went crazy. But
yes, if you're still alive, I might even get a jersey if I happen to go ahead and make it through this week because I'm not even gonna lie to you. I'm sitting there watching that game. I had no other player during the 1 o'clock series, but looking at where I am at right now, man, the man is giving me hope, and sometimes that's all you got.
Oh man. Real quick, I see it starts. I just want to answer this real quick. So I'd be starting Zeke or Brandon Auk in a non-PPR. That's a great question.
Mm-hmm.
I personally, and it, honestly, to me, like senior football, this 100% to me depends on like what you need. Do you need like upside or do you need like a safe floor? If you need a safe floor, Brandon Auk probably can give you a decently safe floor, but I do think that he is that upside play. When he's facing like man coverage, Brandon Auk is really good. He's really good from a PFF standpoint. Like I do think that he could have one of those 9 receptions on 10 targets, 140 in a touchdown type of games against Baltimore. I know the Baltimore defense is amazing, but I do think that he has that upside. Now, Zeke, Denver's run defense has definitely gotten better recently. But I do think, again, especially if it was PPR, he'd be very safe. But just because it to me is like, it depends on what you need. If you just need like some safe, hopefully that Zeke scores, go Zeke. But if you want that upside, maybe go Brandon Auk. What do you think, Eric?
Yeah, I like what you said because Zeke pretty much is the offense. The defense is going to be geared against him. Hunter Henry isn't even playing in this game. This is going to be the equivalent of like the offense equaling one player. And that's a ton of volume. Given that he might not really perform that well because he's one man, it's not like he's in his prime or anything like that.
Yeah.
And Brandon Auk is on a team where they're pretty much going to have to go ahead and put up points because this is like the major game of the actual season. So Brandon Auk can be very productive, but as far as someone that I know is going to be involved, I would probably go with Zeke for the safety because the Patriots only going to move the ball through Zeke. He's going to get so many opportunities, like the dump offs that we just talked about with Breeland Hall. While they won't cater points as far as receptions, they may be like large gains here and there because that team actually has nobody else to go to.
That's interesting. I can't disagree with that just because Demario Douglas is going to play, but Juju's not going to play. Hunter Henry's not going to play, and I'm not sure if there's any other injuries, but some of those targets that are like short to intermediate are not going to be there. So it's going to be Douglas. It's going to be Zeke. Now, Zeke could have a really ugly game, and that's why if it was PPR, I do think he's much safer than Auk.
Without question.
I am struggling over here. Excuse me. But if it's not PPR, that's how, I mean, we're kind of different on our opinions there, but I do think both of them are good options.
Yeah.
All right. Who you got next, bro?
Next, we're going to go with the misses, and I'm going to go with injuries, my dude. Like Jalen Waddle. He starts the game 50-yard bomb, but then gets poked in the eye. All right, you know what I'm saying? Getting poked in the eye sucks. This man also got hurt later in the game because of his ankle. How often does this happen with Jalen? Like, what in the world? Poked in the eye, man got a mosquito bite. He got yelled at by his mom through the crowd, got hit in the ankle. All this kind of stuff that makes the man not available to play the game. We cannot tolerate this. How often is this going to come up? Your other player, Tyreek Hill, you know this man is hurt. You're going to sit here and just have all these little things. Like, this can't be afforded. That is what really set me off. Jalen Waddle's expectations this week. This is like it's a symbol of how this season has gone for him. Like, my dude, what in the world is going on? Jalen Waddle, he gave you a very nice long reception from Tua to start this game, and I honestly think he had a 2-yard rush, and that was that. But it's because of he got bumped into the huddle too hard and had to sit. I'm like, no, it doesn't sit right with me, man. It doesn't sit right with me. It's maybe my feelings speaking right now, but this is where I'm coming from. Like, this is where I'm at.
He got bumped in the huddle too hard. So what did he do? So he had to. Okay, so I didn't know you actually were literally speaking to what he did. He got one 50-yard catch and then 1 2-yard run. Got it. Okay.
Yeah, I'm a little salty, a little bit.
A little bitter about that. I hear you on that, and that's disappointing. And that's the thing. Like, if you're gonna this is one of those matchups where you really want a player like him, like show up like you showed up last week. Tyreek, you don't want to have to lean on him 100%. Then they lean on the run game, which is great, but this is another game where you could have showed up big, in fantasy at least, and he just didn't. So that I could easily see why that's disappointing. But unfortunately, like, that's another one of those players where was this week. I mean, this kind of was closer to what he does versus what we saw last week when he went crazy, right? Like maybe last week seemed to be more of the outlier than anything.
That's true, but I would say this week was even worse than his average because if you take away that 50-yard bomb, he started, so he didn't do anything else. Like, I think there was a play he wasn't involved in, like with the ball, but he got poked in the eye, and he was gone for quite some time from that, respectfully. But then later on, when you know they're struggling with Tyreek Hill, he's going questionable to come into this game. I'm like, there's so many little nitpicky things that you allow to knock you off your square. Like, that can't, like, and if you're Jalen Waddle manager, this is something that if you manage to get to this point in the playoffs, you've always had to stomach. You don't want to tolerate this after hearing so many people loud about how, oh, he's the healthy one. He's going to benefit. Maybe Tyreek might just be a decoy for this game. That wasn't the case. And unbelievably, he's the one that gets hurt and has to sit out. Like, come on, this is too constant.
Yep. You could hear that fantasy bitterness coming through that voice. It's real.
Oh, I got something for Jordan Addison, too. I got something for him, too.
So all these injured players, you got something for them?
It's just – let me not step on your toes.
You are salty, bro.
Shoot.
Hey, you know what? Honestly, Eric, hey, go ahead. Give me the other miss now. I'll go to my miss after that. I want to hear the other miss. You're on
Jordan Addison. I didn't even play him, but dog. He got hurt on a play, and it was friendly fire. His own man got hurt. So if you saw the play last week thinking Nick Mullins doesn't have the best accuracy when going to Jordan Addison, here's what happened in the game today. If you played Jordan Addison, Nick Mullins threw an interception, and in trying to go ahead and get the band back, Jordan Addison on the sideline got hit by his own man and hurt his ankle, out for the rest of the game. Osborne steps in, has many more opportunities, and has a relatively decent game. That is aggravating, to say the least.
He had a great game, actually. I think he had like 94 and a touchdown.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then we'll get to Jay Jettis, too.
Would have loved that. You know what I'm saying? You understand Jordan, Jay Jettis going to do what he got to do. But Addison, you anticipate that he's going to be the person to get the crumbs from that. And he just wasn't there because of the quarterback just throwing another interception after you. It was just unfortunate. Just so unfortunate for Jordan Addison. Yeah. And seeing that all the points that he would have got went to Osborne. You just cannot afford that at a time like this, where so many players happen to things to go along those lines. So that's Jordan Addison, Jalen Waddle. I got some more misses, but like you said,
looking at your roster.
Yeah, man. It's because I know how people you do a lot of this to really position yourself. Get your matchups right. And it's little things outside of your control. And when it happens to more than one player, it's come on now.
Is it me?
I'm only human. It's I feel independent of the game, but if I got to say a couple curse words for this not to happen, I'll say it. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, my God. That's the thing with Jordan Addison was, to me, last week, real lucky to get that 30 points that you got, obviously. He went for 30. Mm-hmm. But I do agree, you wanted to get in the 12 to 15 PPR point range. That felt fair, and especially Hawkinson didn't finish the game
against Detroit.
Yeah, and you knew they were going to be chucking the ball to keep up, and that's exactly what happened. And Jay Jettis was going to eat no matter what. But and that's why to me it's I wasn't expecting some amazing game. It did but if you are relying on him, especially if you're in a deeper league, you got to have 3 wide receivers. I could see how that could piss you off a little bit for sure.
Yeah, it's just the hurts. The same thing happened with DJ Moore. His first catch going into the game, he got hurt and had to sit out a little bit. Yeah, those kinds of things. You need your opportunity. You need your volume there because their best ability, you need to see that on display. Availability. That is just such a killer when you make it to that point, and stuff like that is what knocks you off. Michael Pittman not even being available, even though it appeared that he was going to be able to play. Yeah, stuff like that is just killer.
I'm so confused by that because I could have sworn, and maybe this is on Roto World, and that's why you don't take everything for granted when you get to just looking at one thing. You have to look at a lot of different sources. There definitely was a blurb that said he cleared a concussion protocol.
Yes.
And he was practicing in full for multiple days, but then he was inactive. That was wild to me. I was so shocked to see that. It was incredible. I still don't understand what happened there. That's real weird.
Yeah.
Just maybe extra precaution, but yeah, I don't know. Maybe they thought they could win that game. Without him, that clearly wasn't the case.
Exactly.
I'm going to go to one of my misses, and I'm going to go back to Thursday. And this guy, I will say, I was telling people you got to start this guy. You kind of have no choice. Absolutely hated the matchup. Number 2 run defense. You cannot run on this team. He's also their team was averaging 3.3 yards per carry. They're not a good running team. And I just didn't see a world where he's catching a lot of passes in this game either. Alvin Kamara, he exactly delivered on what I thought. And then, like I said, you got to start him because he's Alvin Kamara. He could always give you like a 10 reception game. He could fall into the end zone and he can make your day that way. But I knew it wasn't going to be him turning out like really good yards per carry the whole game. I mean, he had 19 rushing yards, 5 receptions for 16 yards. So honestly, if you weren't in PPR, you got 3.5 points from this man. Like, it was a terrible day. If you're a PPR, you got 8.5. Like that, and it feels super cheap too to be in PPR and get that. Like, he was awful. I'm worried about him moving forward because that team is not a good running team. So depending on their schedule, then I haven't looked at it. But if depending on who they're facing, if they're facing an above average run defense, you are so reliant on him like receiving, like getting like 5+ receptions to not murder your day. And so if you have Alvin Kamara, I am not going to be 100% reliant on him as like RB1 anymore.
It makes nothing but sense. I have to agree. I saw that game and I was like, as another league person who happens to have Alvin Kamara in a non-important league, I kind of watched his game and it's just not there for them right now. Like you said, the way they play it, it's not clicking. That's not getting in where you fit in. You just can see it in the play. So
yeah. I mean, they're doing a good job throwing. I mean, it's like that's the thing. That was one of those situations where I wouldn't say it's predictable, but again, make sure you guys follow on TikTok, follow everywhere here, Player Profiler, follow FF Strategist on TikTok. I did a preview of the game. I was like, I don't know how well Derek Carr's going to do, but he's going to throw for a lot of yards. He did very well. Taysom Hill, I was like, he's touchdown or bust. I thought he was going to score a touchdown. He didn't. He is a massive miss. Like, that is, I mean, completely not startable anymore. Taysom Hill got 2 carries, he's barely running routes. Like, he's just not a part of the game plan anymore. I knew Chris Olave was going to eat, though. He was a massive hit. Cooper Kupp would have been a massive hit if he caught those 2 damn touchdowns. Like, that crushed me. Woof.
He's got goodwill, though. You know that doesn't happen usually for him.
I know. 2 touchdowns. They were not easy, but also he does that all the time. Like, he catches that ball all the time.
Yep.
But then I'm going to just jump into one of the hits, man. Puka.
I was going to go there, too. I was going to say, the boy on the other side, he showed out, man. Puka, like, I'm just in awe that you can perform like that on the other side of Cooper Kupp. How do you create the volume to deliver that well? You wouldn't have expected that somebody would have the opportunities to just shine the way that Puka has as a rookie on the other side of Cooper Kupp this year. I am so excited for the possibility to potentially have that guy on my team next year. Puka, amazing player. You're going to hope next year most people kind of forgot about him. He's gonna win you some games.
There's absolutely no one will forget about Puka Nacua, bro. Everybody's going to be like pinning him down. Like, he's crazy, man.
I want him to come like Treylon Burks. I want people to come at him like he's Treylon Burks next year. Just completely forget he exists.
I hope he does. I hope they do. But I think like Puka, he's at least like a round 4 receiver right now. Like, you know what I mean? Like in redraft next year, like his target volume. That's the thing. Him and Cooper Kupp's target volume has not really differed that much. But over the last few weeks, it just felt like Cooper Kupp and Stafford were really starting to connect. And honestly, again, I ranked Cooper Kupp over Puka Nacua, so that was wrong about that. But if he caught those 2 touchdowns, he still would have not had such a good day as Puka did, even if Puka didn't catch the 1. But he would have had a much better day because him and Stafford were connecting. But Puka, like, that's one of those guys, though, like, if Puka gets rolling, no one else matters in this offense. It's a Puka day. And I didn't think that you could do that, like you said. If Cooper Kupp is on the field, I did not think you'd be able to do that. But, man, when Puka gets rolling, he's almost unstoppable. 9 receptions on 11 targets for 164, a touchdown, 2 rushing attempts for 16 yards. He's just like a dog. He has like this, like whenever he like you see him get up, he's like screaming and flexing like he's a dog, bro.
I love that. Yes. Like, did you see the adjustment he made on a very deep pass where I think he had to slow down and fall into the defender so he could catch the ball? That's an amazing amount of talent. You caught the ball with his hands. He knows how to catch the ball with his body when it's necessary to do so. He's in the same wide receiver room with Cooper Kupp, who does all his homework. He's always been getting these notes from Matthew Stafford. Having a player like that can absorb all of that information from a Triple Crown winner like Cooper Kupp, I'm telling you, you want as many Puka shares as possible for like maybe the rest of this guy's career. This guy is talented. I was very much so. He raised the bar in that game that they had on Thursday. Puka really impressed me, not going to lie.
Yeah, he went crazy.
Yes, sir.
He went crazy. All right, who you got next?
Let's go with a hit. I'm going to go to my favorite team. B. Young, 23 of 35 passes for 312
Wow.
yards and 2 touchdowns.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm going to give him a little bit of shine just trying to go on
Okay.
into next year. You know what I'm saying? He didn't win the game against Green Bay, but I like the way that he was fighting back. The guy has had nothing but negativity all season, heard all the things about CJ Stroud, the things I've even said. However, he's maintaining. He's still doing what he has to do. Like, he doesn't
Yep.
have like the best players around him, but he competed. He hasn't given up. There's so many quarterbacks that we can see who are starters who right now are getting outshined by a backup. So I will go ahead and give Bryce some shine that he's doing that given this backdrop right now in the league overall for sure.
I feel you, man. Like he was amazing. What did he do? He had I'm trying to pull up his stuff. So he had 27.2 fantasy points, 23 or 36, 312 yards, 2 passing TDs, 4 rush attempts, 17 yards. He fumbled, but I don't think he lost it. The thing that, like, there were some people, and I was not paying attention to Bryce Young last week when they played Atlanta, but they did say, like, on that game-winning drive, that was the first time people were like, oh, wow, okay. They saw a little something, him being able to complete passes and move the offense down the field. Maybe it just took a little while for him and Thomas. I think it's Thomas Brown who's calling the plays now since Frank Bright left, the new OC. I think maybe it just took a little bit of time for them to connect. He was dealing today. He looked like Bryce Young finally.
Yes.
It is no matter what. Like, people, it's fun. It seems to like dump on Bryce Young because he's small. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, of course.
And obviously, what's happening with CJ Stroud. But like, for people to say that he's not talented, I think that is like stupid. I think things just weren't clicking in. And also, I'm not going to guarantee that this is even going to continue next week. Because honestly, Green Bay defense is good, but I don't think they're not the Ravens. They're not San Francisco or anything like that.
Very
but
true.
I do think, and this is one thing that I was just surprised it didn't happen. I'm glad it happened today. I hope it happens more. I was surprised about the lack of involvement of DJ Chark. And I know he's been kind of in and out of the lineup and banged up, but that was one of those guys to me is like, based on the way that he plays, it seems like he should be utilizing DJ Chark way more. And DJ Chark had an amazing day. So he went for like 27, I think. Like, right? He went for...
Oh, his PPR points? Yeah, he definitely put up 20-plus PPR points.
20,
as far as stats...
He was 27.8 PPR points, and I don't know what I just mistyped that. But he went for 98 yards. I think he was like 6 of 8 or something like that for 98 yards and 2 touchdowns. Very similar yards, catches, and targets to Thielen, just without the touchdown. So I do think that Thielen actually, if this is the Bryce Young we could expect, it's encouraging for that passing offense, especially if they're going to – I mean, Mingo didn't do anything today. Running backs really didn't do too much either. But if you're able to rely on Bryce Young, especially in like a comeback effort, which there'll be in a lot of, it's at least encouraging, especially for Thielen. To me, that's probably the most fantasy relevant player on that team is you got something from Thielen, so hopefully you can get more.
Yeah. But I just wanted to give him his shine because he had been playing poorly, but if he's starting to come around, this is something I would like to see. So big ups to old Bryce Young.
I feel you. I'd be remiss. I'm gonna get back in the messes after this. I gotta talk about George Pickens too. Like,
oh yes.
He caught 4 balls for 196. Like, there was a lot of crazy receivers, like a lot of crazy receiver work this week, bro. Like, that's nuts.
Definitely. It ain't even over yet.
I know, that's the thing. There's like a ton of games left. And like Mason Rudolph, it is funny. I was actually thinking about it. Like, everyone's gonna go overboard and say maybe he should be starting moving forward. I don't know if that's the case. But I do know, like, coming out of college, I thought of all 3 of these guys coming out of college, including Mitch Trubisky, who was picked way too high, I did think Mason Rudolph coming out of college, his year was the best of these guys coming out their years. I thought that Mason Rudolph was closer to like a top-level talent when he came out. I mean, that's been wrong, like, for every year. But I didn't think that the gap was like so wide between Kenny Pickett and Mason Rudolph or Trubisky and Mason Rudolph. And at the very least, he's just more of a traditional pocket passer who's going to sling the ball down the field. He's going to throw a lot of picks. So like we saw with Nick Mullins, like he had a great game. I think it was last week, but he's Nick Mullins. So here we go with 4 picks. I'm sure you're going to get similar stuff from like Mason Rudolph, but I'm going to take at least, and this is a fantasy podcast, like I'm going to take that in fantasy because he's going to give my guys a shot down the field. Now that, I mean, I don't want to go overzealous. Like 4 of 6 for 196 is not sustainable. Frymouth, complete garbage. Deontay Johnson, well, I wrote his down. He went 2 of 5 for 15 yards. So I don't know how sustainable that is. I expect both of them to do better. I probably have to just break down this tape, but I'm at least encouraged for George Pickens. But that's another one of those ones. I'm trying my best, like when we talk about the hits and misses, to talk about ones that really impacted people. That I like George Pickens may have impacted somebody in their championship run. Maybe. Like, I don't know how much people are confidently starting George Pickens on a week-to-week basis who are in this part of their like championship run. You know what I mean?
He would have had to have managed to be your flex while you maintained going out throughout the season. And then out of nowhere, this unexpected barrage of points just easily has carried you over. That's not likely to be a large amount of people. I agree.
Yeah. And so let's get into some of these misses because that's what's been knocking people out of the playoffs.
Yes, sir.
Who you got?
A miss that might cost me the playoffs. Like, I literally set 15 points on this man's head. This man's head. James Cook. What the absolute explicitive. Like, the dude had 20 carries for 70 yards. And during the game, my man, they gave a story saying that last time he played this team, he fumbled the ball and didn't play the rest of the game and felt terrible. As soon as they said that, it's just like when they say a free throw shooter in NBA hasn't missed in so many times. I knew this man was going to fumble. Yes.
Like a kicker is going to miss next.
Yeah. I knew his ass was going to fumble the daggone ball. Lo and behold, I should have put a fucking bet on it. He fumbles the ball. He didn't have the best game, obviously. As I'm getting very animated, you can tell I probably have this player as a manager. So, no, he didn't have the best game. He had 20 carries for 70 yards and just the fumble. After going up against what is considered like the softest run defense. After, like, what in the world? Everyone knows when the Bills shifted to another offensive coordinator, how many times have you heard they figured out how to get James Cook the ball? They've involved him in all these games, and that's when they win. Giving him the ball is how they win. Man.
I'm going to tell you why you should be encouraged by what you saw.
Please.
If you make it. That's a problem. Like, this is like,
please,
so
please.
If you make it to the next round, I'm going to give you like a reason why you should maybe be encouraged. I'm going to lessen what I'm about to say. He got 20 carries. That's the thing. Like, no matter what, so the thing you guys always got to know in fantasy, it is process over results because you can't control the results. You absolutely have nothing to do with the results. These are the players on the field. Injuries, random stuff happens. People fumble when the commentators talk about it. Stuff like that.
Put it in the atmosphere. I blame him. I blame that guy.
He put it in there. Put the energy in there.
Hey, yo, just be quiet.
But the thing that you see is 20 carries again. He didn't get his 100-yard mark. And that would have been like 6 games in a row if he would have done that.
Yes, sir.
We should have expected, like, he's not going to put up 100 yards every game. And the Chargers are not a great run defense, but they really tried their best to limit this part of the game because they knew, like, that's what the Buffalo Bills have been succeeding with recently.
True. That
20 carries is super important. They were 1,000,000% focused on him not killing them in the air. They were laser focused on not allowing that to happen. That's why he didn't catch a ball. But, like, the thing is that's encouraging is Fournette got some carries, but you didn't see anyone else really give you substantial work like James Cook. So I do think, like, no matter what, even if he's not doing the receiving work, which is really, to me, like, in fantasy, that's where you're winning with him, is the receiving work. Even if he's not doing that, he's involved. Go ahead.
I was going to say, and admittedly, when he did fumble, he was brought back into the game to play. So that's not how it happened for him last year. They didn't let him play. They didn't let him get another carry the rest of the game. So like you said, they are invested in him. I absolutely do agree with that. It's just the timing of said performance has left a bad taste in my mouth. Pause.
I feel you, bro. Look, God. We were almost through. We were almost doing so great. We were getting through the show without a pause, and you had to bring that in. Left a bad taste in my mouth. Pause. That's so because it's not even crazy until you say pause. It's not crazy. Then you say pause. Okay.
I got to cover my bases. Got to cover my bases at all times.
All right, bro. Anyway, I want to talk about this just real quick. Like somebody wants to thump their chest. We're not all lucky like you, dirt bike addict, but good job. So Stafford, that's just what have been though. He's been lights out, man. Like he has been lights out. The matchups have also worked out. But that team is like
he got the stack.
He got it. And like the thing with Stafford is the beginning of the year, they were honestly doing really well. They just were not scoring from the passing standpoint. They were getting a lot of like Kyron Williams touchdowns, and Kyron still scored, but like he was getting like 2 touchdowns sometimes. Now you're getting it through the air. And so I do think like Stafford, he's just playing like at almost like a top 7 quarterback level at the moment. You got to ride the hot streak. Puka, we talked about him. That's nuts. CD does what CD does. You have a little blip there in the middle named Waddle. DK did fine. Like he did what he needed to do. Higgins went nuts. Higgins was the only bright spot on that offense. Kamara was garbage. We talked about that. And then Bijan, solid day. Very, very solid day for Bijan. I don't want to talk about Bijan too much. I feel like every fantasy football podcast talks like 40 minutes in a 45-minute podcast about Bijan Robinson, but he did fine.
Yeah, this guy's team is astounding. Amazing
Very
team,
good.
to be honest.
Somebody asked, just a start sit, Javonte or Zay? This is about to be wrong. You got 2 minutes to figure this out. I'm going to go with Zay Flowers. The reason is Odell Beckham is dinged up. I don't know if he's going to play. I do think that is a game, like, if they are leading and, like, controlling the clock the whole game, I'd be really surprised. I think they may be chasing in this one, the Baltimore Ravens, and I just think if you're chasing, I'm taking the receiving option. The most dynamic one you got is Zay Flowers, and I think that there's no way they're going to allow him to get 1.7 PPR points again next week. So in PPR especially, I think Zay has both the upside and is a little safer because Javonte's been tough, and the New England run defense, outside of what the Kansas City guys did last week, has been completely dominant this year against running backs. So even at home in a game they should win, he may fall into the end zone. I just don't think – I think the upside is there for Zay, and I also think that his floors are a little safe too.
Yeah, I think Zay pretty much equals the opportunity that the Ravens would only have to even beat the 49ers. And it's what we said last week when they didn't play that well and he had that really poor performance. I was like, I think that he's probably looking ahead to the next game and how they want to use him because there's no way that they can be competitive with the 49ers without Zay Flowers being involved in that game. He's not a player that they can go out and get the W and somehow somebody else was showing up and making them win. So I completely agree with that analysis. He must show up.
He has to show up.
Yes, sir.
All right, so – really quick, did you have any thoughts on the game tonight? I have a few, but not that many.
Thoughts on the game tonight? A Bill Belichick game. He only has one guy to really go to on offense. It's just going to be a tough game, hard to watch, in my opinion. If I had to really go ahead and give a gut response to it, they're going to have game management from Russell Wilson. Once they're up by a touchdown and feel comfortable, it's going to be very boring.
Yep, and that's the thing. Like 2 weeks ago, New England put up a good amount of numbers. They played Kansas City a little tough, but at the end of the day, still got blown out. I'm just not inspired by this offense. And I do think that Denver, even though they lost last week, they're at least being competitive offensively. I think they'll do enough in this game to get by and win a game that's probably low scoring.
Perfect word, enough.
Just enough. Like they're like that's the and also if you ever think that Denver's going to score a touchdown, Cortland Sutton will probably be the guy to do it. So I like him in fantasy this week. I'm not trusting in Jerry Jeudy, whatever he did last week. I'm not trusting in that. Javonte Williams has just been so disappointing. Like I said, this matchup is incredibly tough. Russell Wilson, I'm completely avoiding him like the plague. And then on the New England side, I think Zeke is kind of safe in PPR. I do think he could have one of those 7+ reception type of days and just get you there real cheap in PPR and standard. He has to score to give you a lot of value. Jamario Douglas is the king of 10 PPR points, so maybe you'll get that with like 5 receptions for 50 yards. Hopefully he scores. And then if you're looking for a dart throw just because Hunter Henry is out, and this is an amazing matchup for tight ends. Mike Gesicki may be a guy you could still throw in your lineups. Ooh. High upside, big play receiver. They have no big play receivers at all, but he's likely going to get a lot more work. Him and there's some other tight end they have there. But I wouldn't be surprised if the tight ends were a big part of this offensive game plan to just try to stay in it.
Yeah, because, what else are they going to do? Like, this is a team, they have, like, no options. I feel like that's why when you brought up Ezekiel Elliott, I was like, if Ezekiel Elliott got hurt, this team might forfeit. Like, what are you going to do?
We got another over here, guys. We have no more players.
Yeah,
no
sorry.
Yep. We're starting Zeke. You know what I mean? That tells you everything you need to know.
Precisely.
Oh, my God. All right, so we're coming up on the end of the show. The Sunday Night Football games, I think it's probably started already, but it's going to start soon. We're going to – I don't know if there's how about we do this? I'm going to quickly run through some of the players we haven't talked about, Eric, and just give me, we're going to do the buy or sell. Are you buying this performance? whether it's good or bad, or are you selling it? And then we'll talk about it real quick. We'll do that for like 5 players, and then we'll get to our top 5. All right. Jahmyr Gibbs.
Jahmyr Gibbs, I want to buy, but I don't know how a team is going to respond given that they've already clinched this whole position and everything. He has been playing well, and I think they probably want to maintain his consistency. So I'm going to say I'm going to buy Jahmyr Gibbs at the expense, obviously, of David Montgomery. Jahmyr Gibbs has been playing so well and like passing the eye test. The guy's he's very good rookie. So I have to buy based off of what I've seen so far for sure.
So I'm definitely going to buy that too. The good thing that I see is like they're playing Dallas on Saturday. A Saturday night game. That's an amazing game. Especially for Dallas. They just lost. I think there's not any situation where I don't know. They're still I think the NFC is so competitive, even though they clinched. There's probably an outsider's chance, especially if the Niners lose, that they could maybe fall into the 1 seed. And so because of that, I wouldn't be surprised if they're still going to go balls to the wall, and especially not want to lose to a playoff team like Dallas and try their best. If they try any less than their best, they would probably lose to Dallas because it's at Dallas. So I could see a situation where Gibbs will be solid and at the very least get you the receptions. Like he's been balling out the last 2 weeks, so I'm buying that one too. All right, so are you buying or selling Derrick Henry? We didn't talk about him.
I'm probably going to sell Derrick Henry. The entire atmosphere around him is that they don't know if he's going to be on the team next year, a lot of uncertainty. And even in this week's game, they were really cheering him up because it's kind of the notion and everyone's aware that he probably won't be back on the team next year. So just putting a human expectation on it, you're probably not going to go the hardest if you know you're not going to really mean anything to that franchise going forward. I wouldn't want to invest in that. No.
Yeah. I think he may be close though to like another 1,000-yard season. And I don't know what the number is for him, but I think that they're going to try to force him to get that soon. They played the Texans again, who the Texans eliminated him from the game last week.
That's true. That's true.
But traditionally, outside of last week, he just evaporates that team. He crushes that team traditionally. But it's a new squad, new coach.
And they were motivated to stop him because that was the narrative for so much. They were they sold out on making sure if they lose, it won't because of that. So it's just uncertain. How will they approach that? Will it be the same vein? Will the Titans anticipate that? A game plan to go ahead and counter that? Who knows? So, but I do see what you're saying. And
I like, as a ranking standpoint, he's still probably going to be outside of my top 12 at the least. But congrats for doing okay this week. And you threw a touchdown, so I'm not.
Yeah, they said 4 in regular seasons. I was like, yeah, that's kind of cool to be honest.
All right, what about? We talked about him. We didn't talk about this guy. We need to talk about Stefon Diggs. Are you buying his 5 for 8 for 29 yards?
Stefon Diggs, he's like hit or miss now because the Bills, their approach, it's changing too much. I'd be nervous to invest in Stefon Diggs. You're anticipating the bounce back game, but that's what everybody said last week. And if you were invested on that, and that's what really you needed to happen for you to win, you're out of it already. So Stefon Diggs has lost the set it and forget it, in my opinion, because his team doesn't go through him. If the game plan happens to work in a way where it's leaning towards Stefon Diggs, you're going to be happy you placed him out there. But I have to acknowledge the new risk that they can do well without involving Stefon Diggs. That was not the way that I analyzed that team prior to the past few weeks that they've shown me. That's just how I look at it.
I feel you. And I'm going to read off where he's finished in PPR for the last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks. Not including this week because I haven't updated the number, but he's not going to be high. 54th, 16th, he got 19 points against Philly. 52nd, 45th, and then it says 12th, but that was literally he was a 12th ranked receiver after like the Thursday and Saturday games only. He's going to be very low again.
True, that makes sense.
I'm 100% buying this, and the thing is, they're winning games, and I told you I'm gonna pat myself on the back again. I told you 3 weeks ago what team is going to make a run.
Oh, yeah, you did say that.
I said they're beating the Chiefs. I said they're beating the Cowboys. I was like, they're definitely beating the Chargers when they had Herbert. I was like, they're definitely going to beat them. And that was actually one of their tighter games this week.
I was about to say.
It was not a guarantee. They were getting that ass whooped early. But Diggs, like, he made some really tough conversions on the game-winning drive, and he seems to be fine with what they're doing. Like, to me, it's like I expect his limited role to continue if that's what the game dictates. Now, this game coming up may dictate that they have to throw the ball a little bit more. Well, I don't know. I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. It's playing New England. You just need to score 10 points and you'll win the game.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know about that one. Actually, I don't like that point at all. The week following, playing at Miami for a team who probably going to continue to try to win to clinch the 1 seed. But then week 18 doesn't matter our fantasy situation. So, honestly, if you have Stefon Diggs, you're not in the playoffs anymore anyway. So kind of doesn't matter.
Yeah.
All right. And all right, so we're good on that. So let's do our top 5. Do you know yours?
I do know the top 2. We've had a couple shakeups. Of course, if you want me to go ahead and start it, I can go ahead and
please, you know I'm doing mine right now. Go ahead.
All right. Number 1, I'll roll with the 49ers. Number 2, I'll roll with the Ravens, as I've said, which is why tomorrow's game is so massive. It's the most important game of the season, in my opinion. Number 3, I believe previously I said the Dolphins. I want to switch that to the Lions, to be honest. The Lions.
Really? Okay.
Yes. The Lions are very, like, Amon-Ra St. Brown, the emergence of Jamison Williams, Jameer Gibbs, the confidence of that Goff. Like, that team has done very, very well. So I'm going to switch the Lions and put the Dolphins in. They've fallen from 3 to number 4 just because the Dolphins, they've had a number of injury concerns. And I do think that they can be figured out to an extent. Some teams have pretty much shown that on tape, and they're not as – they used to immediately in the red zone always produce touchdowns. I've noticed, and they even said this during on the teleprompter, or not teleprompter, but on telecast, that they're not as effective in the red zone anymore. So I'm going to say they bumped them down a little bit, even though they still are very offensively superior. The number 5 is always very tough. I can go Eagles, Cowboys, Bills. For number 5, though, I will roll –
or Chiefs.
Oh, yeah.
You forget about them quick.
I sure do. I'm going to say Cowboys. I'll stay with the Cowboys just because their defense, I still think their defense is very prominent. When they got pissed off in today's game, I saw how much they can really go after it. So I will go ahead and go with Cowboys. We're going to go ahead with 49ers, Ravens, Lions, Dolphins, Cowboys.
That's fair. That's fair. I agree with the top 2. First of all, before I get mine, who are you picking? 49ers and Ravens. Who are you picking?
Oh, for the game, I got to go 49ers. They got just so many weapons, and I think the game plan can be. He's going to really want to show off. I think they might beat that. Yeah, they're going to go they're going to play very well. Sorry.
They're going to try to beat that ass. So
yeah,
my top 2 are the same, and I do think that is a sizable gap between those 2 and all the other teams. So. If it's a top 5, sure, it's a top 2, and everyone else you can kind of lump in the top 3 to 7 as like kind of they're just floating all over the place, mixing around. So I wouldn't even put too much stress on like the top 5. It's really like a top 7, and everybody else, and then the Bills are for like right there too. I'm picking the Ravens to win the game, and I think it's just because they have some defensive personnel who can literally directly match up with some of the offensive personnel, particularly like Kyle Hamilton to me is going to be the key to the game. He matching up with Debo, I think, is going to be a big deal. And how the linebackers handle CMC, I think, is going to be a big deal. Like those matchups to me, them smacking those boys in the mouth, I do think that there's an opportunity for them to potentially win the game, win an ugly game. Not saying that if this is a Super Bowl preview, not saying that that's exactly what would happen again. But I do think that this is one of the first teams who I've heard a few times. It's like San Francisco is like bullies. The Ravens are some bullies too. Oh, yeah. The Ravens have had some impressive wins too. And they're 5-point underdogs. They're going to take that as a sign of disrespect as well. I do think that they go in there and like, at the very least, make it incredibly competitive. I can't see that's just one team. I could see them winning. I can't see them getting blown out. Like I just almost like this is one of them franchises. It's just hard for me to imagine that. But
I just think it's going to be a great game. Like I definitely think it's going to be top. Like, best game of the season is what I'm expecting.
I agree. But as my rankings, though, I still think the 49ers are a better team. So 49ers, Ravens, and I'm going to pick. I don't know how much I even believe this. I really don't know. Like the Dolphins technically would be 3. I'll just read it off. It's 49ers, Ravens, Dolphins, Lions, Chiefs. I don't even know how much I believe that. like I know the Cowboys, if in a certain setting, are one of the best teams, but that setting is not a guarantee. Them
True.
being at home is not guaranteed. If they're at home, they're clearly the third rank, maybe the second rank. You know,
they're amazing when they're playing at home. I'm not gonna
at
lie,
home is just a
amazing.
different level. But right now, I have the Dolphins at 3. I mean, they beat them head to head. I have the Lions, and the one thing I'm just sticking to, I have the Lions over the Chiefs because they beat them head to head in Arrowhead. That's just hard for me to like flip that still. Maybe I'm just being stupid about that. But I have the Chiefs at 5. The Chiefs could easily continue to rise up. Again, I would not be surprised if it's the Chiefs in the Super Bowl, just because that's just what they do. But that's my top 5. 49ers, Ravens, Dolphins, Lions, and Chiefs. All right, man. Hopefully you guys are moving on to next week. We're going to be doing the show again around 7:30 next Sunday. So, again, come in, unload all your worries and your problems. Hopefully, if you guys need a lot of points, there's still a lot of games left. There's 4 more games on the slate, so you should hopefully still have some life in Week 16. But in Week 17 and Championship Weekend, 1, make sure that you follow Player Profiler on YouTube, Player Profiler on TikTok, Instagram, all those places. The best advice in the industry to get you guys into your championship and winning those games is going to be with Player Profiler. And make sure you hop over there, follow them on TikTok, but also follow me and Eric on TikTok. These are our handles there. Putting out content all the time, putting out start sit advice, going live all the time. So if you have start sit questions, the best thing you could do is follow us live so you can get into those lives and get your questions answered. Putting out content, I'm trying my best to make content that is specifically tailored, not just the stuff I want to do, but really to your question. So literally, if you ask start sit question, I may reply that with a video explaining my rationale. My rationale may be wrong. You know, this is fantasy football. It's not a guarantee. But I could at least explain to you why I think the way I'm thinking. And you could just disagree, go with another start. And sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. I'd say a lot of times it doesn't. If you go against my advice, but if you do, you can do that if you want to. But with that being said, thank you guys so much for hopping on Hits and Misses. We'll be back next week, 7:30, Championship Week edition. We're going to finish off the season right and unload all of our problems heading into the Sunday Night Football game. Again, my name is Tumi, FF Strategist on TikTok.
It's your boy, Eric P. Football. Happy holidays, and everybody take it easy.
Take care. Be safe, guys. Peace.